Okay, so yeah, let's get right into it. Today we're going to do lesson 3. As I said, I hope you guys are having a great day. Really excited about everything that's going on. Things are going great. Here is the lesson. Give me one moment. Okay, hopefully you guys have been doing homework. There has been some homework. There have been some changes with the homework, but I'm not sure whether you guys are going to be hearing about that yet. There is a chance. No promises yet. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, things are going great in terms of the lessons. Let me start sharing the screen so that you can see it. Up and up. Okay, it's loading. One moment. Okay. Is this it? Today's lesson is 12 pages. Wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, no, this is 5. Okay, this is a different document. 12. Okay, it is what it is. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about, I think the topic is languages. Yeah. Today's topic is languages, and today we have like a sub-theme, like a smaller topic, which is we're going to be talking a bit about idioms. Specifically, like, if you remember, last time we talked about, like, I explained the difference. It wasn't last time, but eventually at some point, I explained the difference between idioms and idiomatic language, where, like, an idiom is a phrase that is specifically said to have some kind of meaning. Like, for example, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, something like that. Today we're going to be covering language that is kind of similar to that. So it's not like idiomatic language; it is specifically idioms. We're going to see how it goes, and yeah, it's going to be quite helpful. And these idioms they're not always useful, but they're quite useful. They are pretty helpful, and they are very good to know. That is the main thing. I'm going to be explaining how to use them and giving you some examples, which you should learn for homework. Keep that in mind. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the vocabulary. Let's do it. Dominant language. Basically, this is like whenever you're talking about some kind of place. For example, Uzbekistan. The dominant language in Uzbekistan is Uzbek. So this is the language that most people in that country speak. So that's like the most kind of popular, I guess, language you could say. Next is a global language. This is a language that is everywhere. Examples of this are English. I almost said American. Oh, my God. Examples of this are English, Chinese, Mandarin, I think, to some extent. Well, it's mostly spoken in China, so it doesn't really count, but yeah. Spanish, which is spoken in a lot of places. French, kind of, which is also spoken in quite a lot of different places. And also Russian. Russian is spoken in all like the CIS countries. So these are global languages that are spoken kind of all around the world. Next is accent. Accent is a type of pronunciation, like the way that you pronounce something. So, for example, like, this kind of makes sense. Like I have an American accent. Some people have like an Uzbek accent, a Chinese accent, the way that you speak. But there's another definition, which is, like emphasis. So accent is kind of similar to emphasis. For example, you can say, you made a mistake, but I'm not going to put accent on that. Like, I'm not going to focus on that, basically. So accent means like focus, I guess. Like focus. The main idea is, am I not sharing the screen? Did I really not share the screen? Oh my God. Oh wow. My apologies. Okay. I didn't see that. Man, I'm sorry about that. Okay. This is why we need Shahzoda, guys. This is why we need Shahzoda. Shahzoda can tell me when I'm making a mistake. That's really sad. Okay, one moment. Have you guys been like messaging me about that? I'm sorry, guys. I forgot. Okay, here. 1 second. One moment. Okay. Can you see it now? I think you guys should be able to see it. Raise your hand in the chat if you can see the screen. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I apologize. I just noticed. This is why I always check things just to be sure. Okay, here's what we're talking about. Dominant language, global language, accent. Okay, cool. There we go. No worries. Let's keep going. Latin Romance language. This is connected to a specific like family of languages. I'm going to explain that in a second. And I'm not sure they actually talk about this, but languages are usually very, very connected. So, no, they don't talk about this. For example, like, you know how Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, all of these are very similar, like in terms of the way they're spoken. They use similar sounds. They use similar grammar structures most of the time. They're basically similar. They sound kind of like the same language. So it's the same with Romance languages. These are languages like, as it says, Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese, mainly. These are the languages. Also, Italian. Oh, it says that. Yeah. So all these languages are very similar because they come from the same family. They are Latin languages. They come from, Latin. And English is kind of similar to them, but also not similar at all. It's very different. But yeah, this is a word that you can use, a phrase. Really cool phrase. Recommend it for sure. Let's keep going. We're not going to be covering all this vocab because there is a lot of vocab, but I think like the most important words. Common language. If you're going to be describing a person, and like, for example, you're talking about somebody that you met while you were traveling, common language means the language between two people. It can be like in any situation, like, for example, the common language between me and my best friend is English, but his main language is Chinese, for example. Like, yeah. Next is articulate. Articulate means to, it doesn't just mean speak fluently. It also means to, like, listen to me. Listen to me speaking right now. I am saying every single letter of the words that I am pronouncing. So like articulate is when you're speaking and you're saying every single letter, like one by one, and it's very clear. And this is something that, for example, newscasters, they always do this. It's called newscaster voice. So articulate basically means to speak more clearly. Yeah. Cultural identity. Great phrase. Really recommend you guys to use this. Cultural identity is like someone's culture, nationality, language. This is all the information regarding their culture. Who is this person as a person? And yeah, this can be used in a lot of situations. I think usually, like if you use this phrase on your test correctly, you can get a very, very high score because it's a very like complicated phrase, but it's also a very good phrase. Yeah. Let's continue. Next is daunting. Daunting means frightening, scary, difficult, basically. That's what daunting means. Indigenous languages. Indigenous comes from the word indigenous. I'm actually not sure what it like comes from. I don't know. Indigenous has like another, like the root of the word, but in general, indigenous is connected to like a person who lives in a country and he is like the first person that lived in that country. So for example, in America, the Native Americans, like the Indians, I guess you could say, like the ones that, those that was really racist. I'm sorry. Those people are indigenous to that place. So indigenous people are the people that lived somewhere before other people came. So indigenous languages are the languages spoken by those people. Yeah. Let's continue. Linguistics. Linguistics is the study of languages, like the whole topic. And a linguist is a person who studies languages. You guys are all linguists, technically speaking. Let's keep going. Persistent. Great adjective. This is used to describe somebody who is consistent. They always try, they always focus, and they have like one main goal. So if you're learning IELTS every single day, you are persistent. That's what this word means. This means to keep doing something over and over and over and never stopping, just keeping going to your goal, like, focusing on it. That's what the word persistent means. Good word. Let's keep going. Rapport. I think it's rapport, not rapport, but rapport. Let me Google it. Give me a second. We have to be exact. Give me a second. I've always said this word as rapport, but that might be incorrect. Rapport pronunciation. Rapport. One second. Rapport. Okay. I have been a bad boy. Okay. Yeah. Rapport. That's what I thought it was. That's why I checked just to be sure. Yeah. Rapport is basically like, imagine you're talking to somebody, right? And every time you say something, you see their face and it looks like they're angry at you. There is no rapport between you. It feels like you are enemies. But whenever you're speaking and they're looking at you like this, like, yeah. Like, it looks like they're agreeing. It looks like you guys are friends. That is good rapport. So, rapport is like the process or the I guess, the friendliness that is established when somebody is talking to you, or like between two people, the person that's talking and the person that's listening. So yeah, rapport is basically friendliness, I guess. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Next is to instruct. I think that makes sense. Oh, a competitive edge. Perfect. This is a great phrase. Competitive edge is an advantage for something. So if you remember last time or some time ago, we talked about a phrase called cutting edge. So that means like, you have a knife, and then the front part of the knife is what's like driving everything, and that is the cutting edge. And so a competitive edge is like it's the advantage for something. It's like the small element that will give you a better chance to succeed. It's like the small change. So, for example, a way that you can use this in a sentence would be, what do you think? What do you think is going to be more popular in the future? Newspapers or what's the word? Newspapers or web articles? Well, I think that newspapers are really old now, and I think that web articles really have a competitive edge over them because they are much more comfortable. For example, let's continue. This phrase is also really, really nice. At a loss for words. I'm going to explain what this means in a sec. So a loss of words, you can also say at a loss for words, like F-O-R, not for, but F-O-R. At a loss for words means whenever you don't know what to say, basically. Whenever you are like lost in your words, you don't know how to explain yourself, you don't know how to describe how you're feeling, that is called at a loss for words. Great phrase, recommend you do it. Really cool stuff. Okay, let's move on. Grab someone's attention. This basically means to make someone interested. You can say grab your attention, grab my attention, grab his attention, any person. But it basically means to like pay attention to something because it caught your attention. Yeah, you can also say catch, like caught my attention. Yeah, you shouldn't say it grabbed my attention. It's better to say it caught my attention. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. In plain English means like simple. Whenever you're trying to explain something, or whenever you explain something that is not like difficult, whenever you just explain it simply, you explain it in plain English. Let's keep going. To learn by heart means to memorize something. Simple, easy. I think that makes sense. Let's keep going. Look up. This means to search for words or like for any kind of information online, on Google, whatever, any place. So look it up means to find the information. Yeah. Let's keep going. Make out. So make something out. So for example, make out the idea, right? You can say like, you read the reading passage. What did you make out of it? Well, I understood that it is no. So usually like I made something out of it. Like it means that's what you understood. This is a little bit difficult to use. I recommend you to look up this phrase online and then find some examples and then use them that way, because this phrase there's also another meaning, which means to kiss, like whenever you're kissing. And so that's why it's kind of difficult. Like if you say make out with something, that means to kiss. So you cannot say like I made out with the book. That means that you kissed the book. So it's a bit strange. Yeah. Let's keep going. Pick up a language. This means to learn a language, basically. Pick up can be used like, physically, but it actually means to learn a language. So good phrase. Let's keep going. One sec, my nose is dying. Okay. We're good. All right, next is polish up on something. Polish up, brush up on. Basically, this phrase is used whenever you're talking about like learning, right? Learning some kind of information, learning some kind of words, anything. But rather than just learning something new, you're learning something that you already knew, but you are adding like more knowledge to it. You're learning more about it. So that is a good phrase to learn. Real quick, guys, everybody, I have a request for you. So everybody that's here in the chat right now, there's like 100-something people, right? Let me check how many it is. 113. Okay, I have a request for you. Please do this. If you have Instagram right now, what I want you to do is this. Take a picture of like your screen, your computer screen, whenever you're watching your phone screen, I don't know. and your notebook together. So if you have like a notebook where you're writing down this information together, and make an Instagram post where you tag me. Not an Instagram post, sorry, an Instagram story. I need this for for my Instagram. Basically, just take like a picture or a story of the screen that you're watching this on, plus your materials, and write something like, I'm learning from Alex. Actually, here, do this. Write down 3 useful words. 3 words from this list that you're going to be learning and you're going to be using. And then write them down there and say something like, I learned these words from Alex, or something like that. Do that and tag me. Mention me in your story. Alex Native IELTS. Mention me. It'll be great. If you could do that, I'd be really happy. Just, if like 2 or 3 people do this, I would be really, really happy. It would mean a lot to me. Make this on your Instagram story, the screen, your notebook, whatever you're learning with, and say 3 words that you learned. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, let's continue. Predominantly. Predominantly is actually a great word for every single section. Predominantly comes from the word dominant. And dominant means like the most popular, the most effective, the most something. Predominantly something means like spoken mainly, right? So for example, Chinese is predominantly spoken in China. I don't know why I've mentioned China so much today. Sorry. The second option can be like, for example, in this case, actually, we don't use predominant, we say dominant. So another option is you could say, in Uzbekistan, the dominant language is Uzbek. Yeah. So dominant and predominant can both be used to talk about languages. Lastly is talking in circles. Talking in circles is a phrase that means not being direct, not speaking directly. And I see a lot of people saying like, I'm like, I don't have any ideas. If this is what you mean, like you are literally talking in a circle, then this is the phrase that you should use because this is a great phrase. Native speakers use it a lot. Really cool phrase. Good stuff. In general, all of these words are really nice. I only tried to discuss the ones that are going to be the most useful because they have a lot of more stuff that you could be learning. I recommend you, if you have time, to learn all of these words. And maybe even some of them, like, for example, second language, right? Some of these words you already know about because you are learning a language yourself. Let's continue. Today, we have some more idiomatic language and some more different kinds of, like, idiomatic phrases that you could be learning or you actually should be learning in order to increase your, like, idiomatic language. If you remember, and I mean, as always, if you look at the band descriptors, you will see that idiomatic language is a requirement. It is a must in order to get IELTS, 7+, something like that. And so because of that, these kinds of phrases you must start learning how to use. Some of them you need to incorporate separately. So you need to say like, oh, there's a saying that goes, no, which means like, there is a phrase about this information. And another kind of, what's it called? Oh, I think everybody wants to make Instagram stories. So now nobody is watching the lesson. Sorry. Okay. Well, it is what it is. They can watch the recording. So basically, some of them are like that. Some of them are actually very easy to use. For example, beyond words. Beyond words, you could just say as a synonym for amazed. So for example, you could say something like, I was beyond words when I first came to Uzbekistan because of how tasty the plov was, something like that. And some of these, it's like they're easier to use than others, basically. Just keep that in mind. That like some of them you should use, some of them you shouldn't use. And there's a lot of situations, and it depends, basically. In any case, whenever you're planning to use an idiom, I recommend you to intonate it. So you need to explain and you need to show how that is important for you, right? So for example, like imagine I'm giving an answer to the question. What was the most embarrassing situation in your life? For example, let's say I had this question on my IELTS speaking. So I'm answering. I would say that for me, I have some trouble in general with being embarrassed. A lot of situations that aren't actually embarrassing, I feel embarrassed about. But for me, the situation where I was actually the most embarrassed, and in fact, I'd say I was just beyond words, I felt really sad about it, was that I broke a vase in my house. For example, did you hear whenever I said beyond words, naturally I just said I was beyond words. Like I made it longer and I made it louder. Those are the two things. That's how you intonate and that's how you make it sound more natural, by sounding like louder and saying things with more intonation. That is how you use these correctly in the best way possible. So yeah, I recommend you to use these phrases. We're going to be talking about them right now. By the way, again, if you are making a post on Instagram, the tag is Alex Native IELTS. Yeah, sorry, I'm saying that again. Okay, let's continue. At a loss for words. This basically means whenever you don't know what to say, when you don't have the words, whenever you are like lost, basically, or whenever you are not able to speak. That's the figurative, but the literal means, that's the literal. The figurative means that you are amazed, basically. This can be positive or negative. Usually negative. It has kind of a negative connotation, but you can use this in a positive way. Keep in mind, if you say like, I'm at a loss for words, whenever you're speaking to someone, usually it's negative though, usually. Next is beyond words. This is also similar to at a loss for words. This means like a situation when you cannot like explain your emotions using words, right? Usually after you say this phrase, you're actually going to use words to describe how you feel. So you're going to be like, oh, this is beyond words. It's beautiful. Like if it's beyond words, it cannot be beautiful. But in any case, people use this like that all the time. Great phrase. Let's continue. One more is to eat your words. And similarly, go back on one's word. These two phrases are great. Eat your words basically means like, sorry. Eat your words basically means like whenever someone made a mistake or, some kind of like, basically whenever someone made a mistake and they go back and they say, hey, sorry, I made a mistake. Then they eat their words. You can actually use this as like as an insult, I guess, but that's not very helpful for your IELTS. That's all I can say. So, eat your words basically means to go back on what you said, to correct yourself. And to go back on one's word is the same. It basically means to like break a promise. So like you say something or some kind of information and then you do something or you say something that is completely different next time. So that is called going back on your word. This also just, by the way, usually has a negative connotation, but I think you already understand that. Yeah. Let us continue. Next is going to be the phrase, have a word with someone. So have a word with someone means, I'm going to talk to someone. Have a short conversation with them. So for example, like, let's say, for example, you want to talk to somebody who is, usually it's negative. Also, keep that in mind. Usually it's like, here, let's see. This is a bad example. Okay, for example, let's say difficult, lemon difficult. Let's say you're going to fight someone, like a physical fight. You're going to say, I'm going to have a word with them. That basically means you're going to fight them. Yeah. If you have to talk to a person, like for example, a teacher at your school, like your son, imagine you have a son, imagine you're a father and you have a son or a daughter or somebody, and you are going to talk to their teacher. You're going to say, I'm going to have a word with their teacher. Usually this has like a negative connotation. It means that you don't like that person. Keep that also in mind. Okay. Next is in plain English. I think we already talked about this. This basically means simple words, no difficult words. And lastly, let's talk about this. Actually, let's talk about that. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about this. It goes without saying. This is idiomatic language, which is very necessary. And this is a phrase that is very easy to use. I recommend you to write this down right now immediately because this phrase is great. And this phrase basically means like, I don't have to say this, but something. Like everybody knows this information, basically. And you can use this in any case. It's so easy, any situation. So like, let me say some kind of question. Do you think it's easier to use the internet or to not use the internet? That's a bad question. Do you think that the internet will become more popular in the future? It goes without saying that the internet is the most popular invention of the 21st century. And so I think that there is no question that in the coming years, the internet will continue becoming more popular. So again, just like great phrase, and you can use it in any situation. Helpful, very nice. Let's continue. Speak the same language. This is a phrase that is used whenever you are talking about two people that understand each other. Not necessarily about the language, even though that's what this says, but because this is an idiom, it's like an idiomatic expression, it means that two people understand each other. Like they have the same ideas, tastes, attitudes, basically. So whenever two people, as I said, speak the same language, they understand each other. Simple. I think that makes sense. Let's continue. Talk in circles. We also covered that. Good phrase. Good phrase. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're going to get to that in a second. Let's do last one. Yes. Here we go. So why we're discussing this today as well and all this stuff is because language can sometimes be, and quite often it'll be a topic on your part one. So they're going to be asking you questions about like, English, your English language journey, how long you've been learning English, all that kind of stuff. So one more kind of topic that is pretty popular is part three. There will be a topic connected with also languages, right? Linguistics and all that stuff. And this is also very helpful there. And one topic that I want to kind of talk about a little bit is loaded language. So what this means is this is very popular in, for example, advertisements. It's popular in politics. It's popular in a lot of different like spheres where language is important. And it means a wording, which means like not the information in some kind of phrase or some kind of sentence, but specifically the way that information is presented, that influences an audience by appealing to emotion or to stereotypes. So an example of this is like, let me actually Google an example so that I don't misinform you, because this is very, I think, important. Give me one moment. Loaded language example. One moment. Beautiful internet speeds of Uzbekistan, as always. So, for example, okay, here we go. For example, imagine you're reading a text, and maybe you guys know this phrase, illegal immigrant, right? This is somebody who goes and moves to a country. Sorry, actually, here, let me give you a different one. Bureaucrat. So what is a bureaucrat? The topic of bureaucracy as a whole. This is like the idea that like government is very complex, and then in a negative way. A bureaucrat in general is a negative term to do with a politician who is like not a good person. Whereas public servant is another word that is also connected with that. It's like somebody who works in the government, right? So whenever you're reading a text and it has the word bureaucrat, that's going to be loaded with negative meaning. Whereas if you're reading a text and it says public servant, completely opposite. It's going to be a very positive meaning. So you can also see this in a lot of different situations. Like, for example, the phrase stinky, right? Stinky means like smells bad, right? Whereas the word fragrant means smells good. And just in general, it means the same thing. It has a smell, but the word fragrant has a positive connotation, whereas the word stinky has a negative connotation. So in a lot of situations, you can find this like loaded language. And I think it's very important because it's important for you to know this because connotations can carry a lot of stuff. Like if you remember today, I think 5 or 6 times I said, this phrase has a negative connotation. That means that if you're talking about a positive situation and you use these phrases, that doesn't make sense. It's illogical because these phrases are usually connected with a bad situation. For example, to eat your words. That's not like a good thing, right? Like if you want to talk about yourself and you said something like, I said that I don't like English, but then I started learning English, so I ate my words. Like that's usually not a good way to explain yourself. And the same is like at a loss for words. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Your drawing is very beautiful. Like it's not always very, very clear. There's negative connotations and positive connotations. Learn that, keep that in mind. When you hear me talking about this, try to understand. If I say negative connotation, it means that people usually connect this kind of phrase or word to negative situations. So yeah, let's continue. So that was kind of the vocab part of today. Give me one moment. One of the questions. Okay, language, perfect. Yeah, so the topic for today is in general just like languages and speaking. Okay, Cool, cool, cool. Very nice. Lots of text. Hopefully this is going to be interesting. Let's get into it. As you can see right here, 6 surprising benefits of learning a language. Okay. Let's get into it. Today's topic is learning languages and its benefits and difficulties just as a whole. And now we're going to be talking about learning a language. Since you guys are here, like you're in this course, you are learning English, and probably you've been learning English for a while because you are doing IELTS right now, not just general English. You know that learning English can be, and just learning any kind of language, can be very positive and it can be very good for you. One thing you should keep in mind is that there are actually more benefits to learning a language rather than just knowing the language. I feel like a lot of people, right, like whenever they when they're studying IELTS, they think, okay, I'm going to study IELTS. I'm going to go to university. Very nice. Good. Like benefits, very clear. But actually learning a language as a whole, any language, not just English, has been studied. The whole field of linguistics, there's actually a connected field, which is called neurolinguistics. Neuro as a prefix, it means brain or like, brain activity. So neurolinguistics is the field of studying how the brain is affected and how the brain is connected to learning languages. And there have been a lot of very interesting discoveries, a lot of very interesting information that is connected to that field, and that is, that came out of that field. So that is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Mainly, as far as I understand, this whole article is from neurolinguistics. So let's get into it. Yeah, here are some benefits. Number 1, learning a new language improves your memory. Of course, that makes sense, but I think something to keep in mind is that it improves your memory long term. It's been proven that when people are learning a language, or whenever they know several languages, they're less likely to succumb to dementia or Alzheimer's or those different kinds of diseases because their brain is more developed. Their brain has more memory space, I guess you could say. Now, of course, it's kind of a debated topic. There's no such thing really as memory space, but some people just have better memory than others. And whenever you are learning a language, that actively improves your memory. Being bilingual makes you a better multitasker. There is some science that suggests that bilingual speakers can have an increased capacity for problem solving. Not sure. Sounds interesting, but maybe for sure. I feel like it's it's all connected to the fact that your brain just develops in a different way. Let me actually see if that's here or not. It does not. Yeah, let me actually tell you. A lot of people feel like this is kind of a popular thing that like when you know more than one language, you are more than one person basically. And what I mean by that is like. People that know several languages, it's kind of like they have several personalities. And it's been proven that just in general, like babies and children that learn more than one language like together, they are more successful in life as a whole. So keep that in mind. Let's continue. Knowing other languages encourages cultural appreciation. Learning a language could contribute to greater tolerance because of the exposure to a variety of cultures. Yeah, this one kind of makes sense. So good job on you. Speaking other languages makes you a better communicator in your native tongue too. Yes. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. In general, the way that language works, I feel like you should know this. And some of you probably have been learning other languages as well. Like, I've seen a lot of students that they're learning English. They have their own native language. Some of you speak like Uzbek and Russian, right? That's already 2 languages. Those are like your native languages. Those are languages that you speak at home. Now you're learning English. And then even more of you sometimes are learning, for example, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, German, all these languages. Whenever you learn more languages, you actually have the capacity to understand more languages. You go even further because, first of all, languages are all connected. This is important to keep in mind. That's why we have like Romance languages, why we have indigenous languages, because these languages have similar structures. They are spoken in a similar way. And whenever you learn these languages, right, whenever you engage in the process of linguistic acquisition, whenever you're learning a language, you're not just learning the vocabulary and the grammar, you're also learning the structures of the language, the way that the language actually works. Like, for example, in English, there are 12 times. Why? In Spanish, there is this many times. In Spanish, we have like female and male. Every single object is either female or male. Russian is the same. And then there's so many other languages that also follow that. Some languages that don't follow that. Why is every language the way it is? We don't know. But we do know that languages share these features. Like Spanish and Russian both have gender for things, right? Like, I think gato is a cat, which means, I think it's female. I don't remember. I haven't learned Spanish in a very long time. But basically, by learning a language, you are improving the way that your brain understands language in the future because you are learning a set of different rules. And all these rules together combine to give you more understanding of linguistics as a whole, which is important. Alrighty. Let's continue. I think this one makes sense. We're gonna move on from that. Okay. In general, I recommend you to read this article in here. The topic is like the main struggles and the main problems that you can have whenever you're learning a language. I'm not going to go over all this because I think this information kind of makes sense. Let me go over like the general, like just the titles of each one. But what I want you to do for homework is to read each of these paragraphs as a whole. Because I think it'll be good for you. If you want, you can try reading it out loud to practice your speaking, but as a whole, this is a good article. So number one is doubting your abilities. A lot of people say, like, I'm not good with new languages. There's no such thing as good with languages. It's just how much you understand and how much you have the capacity to understand. And also depends on your teacher. Whenever you have the correct input and the correct way for you to learn, specifically you, it's a completely different story. So don't focus too much on your abilities. Keep that in mind. Number two is lack of practice opportunities. This is a very big challenge. And I think especially in Uzbekistan, it can be very difficult to find like a person to speak with. But hopefully we have been, this channel and all that kind of stuff has been providing you with more information in order to, to get better, basically. Yeah. I recommend you to look on the internet. There's a lot of resources on the internet for, speaking. So, sorry, wait. Am I recording? Oh, okay, thank God. Never forget to record. Okay. Next is going to be fear of speaking with strangers. And, the past topic is lack of practice opportunities. What I want to say is use the internet. The internet has a lot of different resources for you to be able to, speak to other people. If you're afraid of speaking with strangers, that can also be a very big problem. Because usually if you're learning language, you're going to be learning it to speak to new people. And if you're afraid of speaking to new people, that can be an obstacle. Keep that in mind. Loss of motivation and expecting it to be easy. Keep it in mind, learning language is never going to be easy. You probably know that already. Let's move on to some practice questions. Specifically, this topic is connected to part 2 and 3. So I'm going to be answering part 2 first. I'm going to write down my ideas as usual, and then I'm going to be answering. So yeah, let's get right into it. We're going to have 1 minute to write down our ideas. Give me 1 moment. This pen does not work. Okay. So I will start the timer, and then from there, I will tell you when we are starting. Remember to write down the ideas that I'm using while I'm speaking. It'll be helpful. Let's get into it. 1 moment. Okay. So 1 minute timer starts now. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into it. Yes, I would like to describe. Okay, 2-minute timer starts now. Here we go. I would like you. I would like to describe a thing that I did in order to learn a language, and this was flashcards. In general, flashcards, or in other words, Anki, is a technique where you have like an application or some kind of like just pieces of paper, which is what I had. I had pieces of paper, and you make these like little papers where you have the word that you're trying to learn on one side, and on the other side you have the definition, the translation, something of that word. And for me, the language I was learning at the time was Japanese. And if you know Japanese, maybe, there is a kind of like grammatical element there called kanji, which is a system of Chinese letters, Chinese hieroglyphics, actually. So literally the whole language of Chinese is copied over into Japanese. And what I did was basically I wrote all of these like kanji. I didn't write all of them, of course. I think I had about 2,000 of them. I wrote all of them on like each little piece of paper. And then on the other side, I wrote the definition. And for hours every single day, I would spend like writing them, organizing them, and then learning using them. And how you learn is like you go through them one by one, you try to memorize, like repeat what the meaning is, and that is really helpful for you to actually memorize really quickly. Like this is one of the best techniques actually for memorization in all of English. Sorry, not in all, in all of like linguistics. And yeah, another thing is that it's really fun because by the time I finished my Japanese journey, I guess you could say, I had this massive stack of papers, and I guess I could just kind of reminisce. I guess I could look back on the past and see how much have I actually learned. Like what journey did I go on? And it was really effective. It really was. This is definitely one of the best things that I've ever done in order to learn a language. All right, so hopefully that was kind of helpful. Let me go through these part 3 questions now, and I'm going to be talking about languages. I'm going to, give me a second. That's it? Yeah, that's about it. Okay, I'm going to take a picture on my phone, and then I'm going to be answering using the vocabulary from today's lesson. So let me get into that 1 second. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. Is it more important to learn foreign languages now than before? I would say that most of the world currently has a second language. I think everybody is at least learning, if not already speaking English. And I think a lot of people that already speak English, they're learning Spanish or French or any kind of other language. Because in general, I think language learning is important. And every single day, more and more people are coming to terms with the fact that the future is really about being full of soft skills. And it's about understanding different people. And I think that is why more and more people are gaining fluency in these widely spoken languages. What are the difficulties of learning languages? I think that the biggest thing is being persistent. If you want to be multilingual, if you want to be a linguist and work in the field of linguistics, you need to do this daunting task of, like, for example, learning so many words. In the beginning, you have to learn a lot of vocabulary. You have to be able to articulate, and you have to start kind of learning all these different kinds of techniques. You have to understand what type of language do you have, and you need to work on your accent so that you can speak as fluently as possible. And I think the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, could be actually choosing a language. I think a lot of people, if they already know English, it can be difficult for them to choose what language they're actually going to be speaking. So I think that could also be a big thing. What can people do to learn foreign languages? I think that you need to start from your cultural identity. I think that if you already speak some kind of language, the languages of countries that are close to you can be a great place to start because you can start branching out into different paths. I don't think that you necessarily need to speak a language fluently before you can move on to another one, because I think that the more you learn, the more you have a complete worldview of languages as a whole, right? Which I think can be really good. I think that just whatever language grabs your attention, first, you should make a plan for exactly everything you need to learn, and then just start going at it. Maybe find a teacher or find a group for speaking, and that can help you tackle the main difficulties of learning languages. Is making foreign friends the best way to learn English? Yes, I think it can be. I think that, of course, there's a lot of different things. But if you have foreign friends, even if they are, not necessarily from America or England or from a predominantly English-speaking country, I think that you can still brush up on a lot of different things. Like, for example, they can help you make out different kinds of, texts, different kinds of pieces of information in written form, like articles. They can really make your language more flowery because a lot of like people from different countries, they use different kinds of phrases. And lastly, I think that by, making these kinds of friends, you can go outside of your comfort zone. And through that, you can really open up and you can become more of a communicative person. Is it better to learn individually or in a group? I think that when you are learning in a group, it can be kind of hard to catch the attention of the teacher, and you can kind of be left, alone without any kind of without any kind of support from the group, right? A lot of times, these kinds of groups are not really going to be helpful for you. But I think that if your group is already high enough of a level, right, in this case, you can actually get support from other students in that group. And I think in this case, it'll be very helpful for you. These kinds of groups where you're focusing on technical language, for example, IELTS groups, I think they're very helpful. But I think that whenever you're starting out, it's probably better to learn individually, at least at the beginning. Yeah. So those were, sorry about that. Those were my answers for this this topic. Let's get into it. Yeah. Okay, give me one moment. What do we have now? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yes. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's do this again, guys. Please, if possible. This is going to be like the last 5-something minutes of the lesson. I'm going to be explaining again some words. If you can, please make a story for Instagram, like of your computer or whatever, and your notebook, plus 3 words that you learned from today's lesson. Make a story, post it on your Instagram, tag me, Alex Native IELTS. That would be very helpful. Thank you. So let me continue. There's around like 5 more minutes. I'm going to be explaining some more words. Yeah. Let's go up here to the top. Okay. Minority language. Minority language is it's the opposite of like a dominant language. This is a small subset of people, like a small group of people in a certain country that speak that language. For example, in Uzbekistan, I think Russian is spoken by a lot of people. Tajik, Kazakh, those kinds of languages are minority languages in Uzbekistan because not a lot of people here speak it, right? So minority language just means a small group. Minority as a whole means like a small group of people. For example, like in Uzbekistan, I think, again, Tajik and Kazakh people are minorities because there's not that many of them here. There's a lot more Uzbek people. So keep that in mind. Next is language acquisition. I actually used this phrase in my speaking while I was like answering the questions. Language acquisition is different from language learning. Language acquisition is the process of actually understanding the language and like gaining it, right? Like taking it, rather than having someone give it to you, right? For example, whenever you watch like YouTube videos and you understand what they're saying from there, and then you hear some kind of phrase and you start using it, that's language acquisition because nobody gave it to you. You kind of learned it yourself. So this is a much more helpful process, in my opinion. And I mean, just in general, right? Like whenever you are learning only in the classroom, not through language acquisition, you only have, let's say, 1 or 2 hours every single day in order to learn. That's so much less than if you are learning every single day from outside of the classroom. So that's why I really support different kinds of language acquisition techniques. Let's keep going. Reproduce language. Basically, like, reproduce language is a TEFL term, like teaching English to foreign language speakers. It's a term that has to do with, like, for example, I teach you something. I teach you how to use the present simple, and then you start using the present simple. You are reproducing it. You are remaking it, recreating it, and this is one of the techniques and one of the ways that people actually learn languages. They reproduce the phrases that they hear. This is something you also do in this course. Yeah. Widely spoken is a great phrase. Basically, it's a term to do with like a language that is spoken by a lot of people, right? Just if you're going to be talking about English, if you get the topic of English, say the phrase widely spoken. Great phrase. Open up. This is a very general term. It has to do with becoming less shy and talking to more people. Really recommend you to use this phrase on your speaking. It can be used in any situation about people, about yourself. For part one, you 100% will get a chance to use this. Like if they ask you, for example, did you always live in the same town? No, recently I came to Tashkent and I have really opened up as a person because I can talk to more people now. Something, whatever. You can use this phrase in any situation where juicy, really good phrase. And lastly is technical language. This is that's what I'm going to talk about. Oh, speak up also. Speak up is a phrase that basically means like speak louder, speak up. Good phrase. Recommend you use it. Okay, so that is about it for today. Guys, there's going to be a reading webinar. I'm going to be explaining how to do true, false, not given questions. If you're struggling with true, false, not given questions, join me on my second channel. It's on Telegram, Alex Native IELTS. Tomorrow at 7, from 7 to 7:30. Free up some time. It's going to be recorded and I will send it into the channel, but come to the webinar. And then at 8, there's going to be a special game. So get ready for that. Stay excited. I hope you guys have a great day, and thank you for today's lesson number 3. Please remember to post the stories. Again, thank you so much for doing this. It is really helpful to me. Shahzoda, how are you doing, Shahzoda? Say hi if you can hear me, Shahzoda. Hello?
Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
How are you? I'm doing great because I can finally hear you. I'm going to send you an audio message today, a video, which is going to make you very happy. Yes. Okay. So thank you to everyone. Hope you guys have a great day. And Shahzoda, take it away. I'm leaving. Bye, everyone.